think the first day that I launched my Bitcoin ATM, I gave away about today's money about $2 million.
That's Zann Kwan, one of the earliest Bitcoin pioneers in Asia. In this episode, we go deep into her journey from real estate investor to crypto OG, and how she's now managing serious digital wealth through her firm REVO. Let's get back to it.
Sure. So I started in crypto. The first time actually someone who asked me to do a startup in crypto was December 2013. At that time, I just had a baby, and a friend from the US, I was in New York, asked me whether I'd be interested to place a Bitcoin ATM in Singapore. So I was very excited because I heard of Bitcoin. And when I first heard about it, I think when it first started, 2009, 2010. So what do I do next? And the whole reason why he asked me was because my previous life before crypto was in real estate investment. So for him, Bitcoin ATM is a machine. So it's easy for me to find a space or a landlord who will let us place the Bitcoin ATM, which happened to be the first in Asia. We did not think that Singapore will have the first Bitcoin ATM because at that time, there are already, I think, at least one machine in Hong Kong.
Before that, how did you get into crypto? What was the spark?
What was the spark? I first read about it in magazine because I'm always constantly reading, very curious, especially as a professional landlord, right? As a real estate investor. So I was reading about Bitcoin, and that was really the first time I heard about it. Didn't think too much, but what really caught my attention was the word ledger, because ledger is actually an accounting word. So it feels like I understand this, I know what this is. And when I read about it, it actually really attracted me. I didn't question too much, and I just feels like this will be a game changer. I remember when I first heard it. So I wanted to buy some Bitcoin, but I don't know how and where I could get it. So again, so fast forward that to 2-3 years later. So when my friends talk about Bitcoin ATM, it clicks immediately. Because that time I was like, oh, okay, I read about it. And now we are trying to help people get their hands on Bitcoin. Let's get started. What do I do next? Not much. In terms of no resistance, no questioning, just felt like it was the right thing to do.
Wow. Okay. Great. But what was there it was from the innovation side that you wanted just to see Bitcoin, or was it something in the markets that affect the thing? Yeah.
Sure. I think it was really it's really trying to be one of the first to do something that makes sense. And obviously because just before digital asset or just before crypto, I was working for GIC in the real estate department, investing and managing real estate. So of course, from that, and also with my training in accounting, it looked like I would be the last person to jump into an opportunity like this. But my life have always been very entrepreneurial, meaning that I remember going for a C-suite interview, and the CEO didn't hire me because one of the issue was he said, you were great, everything ticked the boxes, but you were too entrepreneurial for a CFO role. I remember that. And I was like, I didn't say anything in the interview to make you think that I'm very entrepreneurial. It's funny how people can get the vibe. So back to your question, I have always been on the lookout for something that make an impact. May it be a career or doing a project that excites you. So I think that probably also makes me a bit different from the rest of the auditor or accountant. Probably because when I first got into Bitcoin, I had so many accounting friends, even technology friends as well, auditors friends coming up to me and say, you are a CPA, you're CFA, you might lose your license, your career will be ruined. It's like, you're like, no, you shouldn't do this at all. Yeah, so many. I remember being put aside. I could be in a food court or in a mall, and people say, hey, Zen, let me tell you something. And they'll put me aside. I heard you're doing this Bitcoin thing. Don't. So I was like, and I think it actually made me more excited about Bitcoin. The fact that when you're doing certain things and everybody say, great, it's good, it's when I doubt myself. Maybe I am doing something that everybody see eye to eye, and it doesn't excite me. Actually, it excites me that when you're doing something and you feel right, it feels right and everything looks like it's going to be impactful or going to be a game changer. And when that time people say, don't do it, I push it ahead. I will be like, the more I want to do it. And probably that's why I never look back.
I think we need to tell people why we put the word crypto queen for you. Okay, I think we need to give a context because I've been seeing it in magazines as well. So how did that come about?
Okay, firstly, maybe talk about my daughter. My daughter knew that I was called Crypto Queen. And then she Googled and she said, Mama, there is someone in the middle of the sea. It's not you, because I think this Crypto Queen has been used in on different people. But anyway, how it came about was, it was the ACCA magazine in 2019 that I had an interview, and I spoke about what I've done in the space in terms of taxation, or trying to be really spreading the word about blockchain, what we did. Anderson, I think you were on some of the panel with me as well, right? We were back to back on, I think, some of the treasury or accounting conferences. And I've also been, anyway, so they felt that for what I've done, they decided to call me Crypto Queen on the magazine, on the front page. And that's how I got caught that Crypto Queen name since then.
So for REVO, what is REVO and what are they actually doing?
I think before even we talk about REVO, there are a lot of things that happened, I think, for the past 10 years that make me want to build a platform like REVO. I think a few things. I think earlier you mentioned about some of when we're building our startup, how we were being questioned by some of the authority, regulators, even have police. I think I have between 2 to 5 policemen outside my office, not for me. They wanted to talk to people who wanted to buy Bitcoin. It's not about my business. It was really, they wanted to reach out to people who wanted to buy, and why are they buying? What triggered them to buy? And literally wanted to stop some of them from buying Bitcoin. And that's why they thought that the best place to be placed at in Singapore to be at is outside a Bitcoin ATM machine. Yeah, so I think with that, and I think one of the things how I got into the space, to add on to that point you asked earlier, was I really love the inclusive fintech aspect, right? How blockchain is going to democratize the whole financial system. I think that has been one of the key things more than 10 years ago that get me started as well. And of course, now it has been become of a very stale reason why you're in crypto. But we also realized that I think when we're doing some project, me and Anderson, we had this conversation. We might be too early talking about that, right? So we were talking about the underserved, underbanked in the past. And now, on the flip side,
I know you've been going to Africa recently. What's your mission there?
Actually, Africa has been on my mind for 3 decades. When I graduated, I read an article on The Economist, I remember, talking about the up and coming, the emerging Africa. I remember that article. And I knew that at that time, there are a few things that I wanted to do. I think at that time, I thought, okay, Africa, the number looks good, but it will be more ripe for going into either doing investment or some projects later part of my career, which is now. So that's one thing is always at the back of my mind. So coming back to that, I've never visited Africa until 2 months ago when I first stepped foot in Rwanda. And when I was there, I was on the Inclusive FinTech panel as well. And I shared with them how Inclusive FinTech got my attention for me to commit my later part of my career to be on, and how being in Africa makes all the sense. Their payment rails going to be blockchain based rather than the old rails, the older system that we have in all the developed country. So the fact that their whole entire payment system is going to be blockchain based makes sense for a lot of startups to either try out. Sandbox is unnecessary when you can just hook onto the rail, experiment it, either for quick success or quick failure, but you keep experimenting, the POC will be fast. So I think in that aspect, I'm really excited of what's going to be ahead of the fintech blockchain space, digital asset side.
I know you also have been traveling around Asia. In terms of sentiment, what are you seeing in Asia right now?
In Asia, I think one of the key differences, because I also traveled to Europe and the US as well, I think one of the key differences among the family offices is that the wealth creator are still managing that family office, because the wealth generated are still quite new versus some of the family offices in Europe that are in maybe the 6, 7, or even 10 generations. So for them, their investment mandate are a lot more conservative, because they really just wanted to keep the principal, and it's 80-20, maybe 80% in fixed income, 20% in equity. The capital preservation is one of the key mandates. Whereas in Asia, the person who took the risk, the entrepreneur of the family, is still around, and because the wealth is recently generated. And with that, when you speak to the family offices or family wealth, they understand being open-minded, they understand risk-taking, they understand volatility, especially in a new area. They don't maybe may or may not deem it as asset class yet. But I think with that, they are more open to hear or ask questions, to seek to understand. And that conversation has been happening. And across Asia, I would say, in terms of Thailand, open-minded, ask a really good question. A lot of families actually already own digital assets. That's one. And yeah, and in Taiwan, I was in a conversation actually, father and son. The father is 70-year-old. The son is around late 40s. And the whole time I was talking to the son, thinking that he is the one that will have all the questions for me to answer. And it turns out that at the end of the conversation, the father, the 70-year-old, the entrepreneur of the family, is the one who said, great, I got my question answered. Let's do it, right? Let's allocate. And whereas the son is the one who is resisting, because to him, the volatility might not fit well with him. And it's interesting that I judged wrongly, thinking again, like the father. So we do have entrepreneur in their 70s allocating and embracing the whole digital asset scene. Crypto is so part of my identity now that I'm not leaving the space. There was this point, it was really difficult. I think that I thought of walking away, but I think what really stopped me from walking away was the next generation, which is my kid. I thought about it. I thought about what's the point of walking away. It's really coming back to, hopefully in 10, 20 years time, I have a good story to share. And I didn't want my story to just end like that. So I think that was what really kept me going. I think my story is not over. My story is not fully written. I wanted to build better relationship with my family, children, better relationship with my own finances, my own superpower, my skill set to really thrive. I have not get that on the clockwork, and I'm in the process getting a better version of myself. And which include all aspects. It's not just about career, about maybe speaking, my personal skills, and really enjoying life and thriving, be the best version of yourself. I think that part, it will be my biggest regret if I just disappear next week.
Yeah, I hope one day, maybe 50 years from now, there's a museum of the crypto OGs. Yeah, our faces will be there.
I think be excited on what you have. Again, depending on where you are, depending on what you're trying to achieve, either you're trying to get into the space, or you might be in a space for like more than a decade and trying to reinvent yourself and trying to see what else that excites you. How do you call it? Be curious. And I think that wherever you are, you will find a space for yourself and find your tribe. I think that is super important. Yeah, if you don't have a tribe yet, be your own best tribe first. And people will be attracted to you. And sooner or later, you will be at the right place, right time.
Love Zann's journey from Bitcoin ATMs to crypto wealth management? Subscribe for more unfiltered conversations with the OGs shaping the future of finance. Hit the bell below so you never miss an episode of The Zeall Show.